Alright guys, I'm going to be showing you some Photopea. So this is basically what we're going to be using in place of Photoshop until we actually get Photoshop, and everything I'm going to show you right now translates directly to Photoshop except for how we save things, since this is a web-based program. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to Photopea. So I'm going to come onto here, and I'm just going to search Photopea and go straight into it. When you open it up, it's going to, probably by default, you're going to have like a big tab that shows up and like covers up everything, but obviously I've been on here before. You can just close out of that, and we come to our start screen right here. So you have the option to create a new project or to open from computer. Now, you guys will probably want to do editing your photos as open from computer, but there's a couple things I want to show you on just a blank document first before we actually bring a photo into this. So I'm going to go to new project because I want to show you guys a couple things in here. So when I go to new project, by default, this is not good, okay? Right now the default measurements are 1280 by 720 pixels. That's very small, and I really know that it's very small because it says DPI. Well, actually I think I just scrolled and messed it up there. But even so, that DPI, I believe it was 72 originally, got changed to 83. Here's an important thing that we're going to talk about right now. So DPI stands for dots per inch. It has to do with the resolution of your image, meaning basically what your picture looks like as far as, is it high resolution or low resolution? Is it going to look pixely when you zoom in, or is it going to still look pretty clear when you zoom in? And that is determined by this number right here. So right now this would be a very low resolution image. We don't want that. Generally speaking, we want to work in 300 dots per inch. But watch what happens here. If I come down here into one of these options, you'll see there's all these pre-made sizes of things down here. And you'll even see like where it has like stuff in here for like if you want something that's specific for Instagram or for your like header on Twitter and stuff, they actually have like a bunch of pre-made sizes. But if I go into print right here, and if I click on letter, watch what just happened to that DPI. It just changed to 300 dots per inch now at an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. That is basically what we're going to be working in most of the time. Now you can make it, landscape versus portrait, but that's entirely up to you. We're just messing around right now, so let's just go in here. All right, so I'm going to hit create, and here I have my workspace. Now I'm going to kind of unclick some of these things that I did as defaults. We'll come back to that in a second here. So first thing to know about both Photopea and Photoshop is that it's very intuitive as far as this will tell you a lot of things that you need to know. For instance, anything that you put the mouse on top of, it will tell you what that tool is. So I put my mouse over here, it tells me this is my move tool. This is my entire toolbar over here. I'm really only going to be using the mouse tool right now to use the move tool, but if you go over each of these, they do tell you what each tool is. So just hold your mouse over a tool and it'll tell you what that is. Some of them will make sense. You guys know what cropping is. There's the crop tool right there to help you reframe your pictures. Some of these, unless you've used Photoshop, you probably have no idea what to do with the gradient tool for right now, and that's just fine. We're not getting into that just yet. But again, some are intuitive, things like the type tool right here. Okay, so this is your toolbar. It's over here on the left. It'll tell you what each of these tools are when you hold your mouse on top of it, okay? So let's put something on here because I want to talk to you guys about layers. So I'm going to go to File right here, and I'm going to say Open and Place. Now, in a second here, we're just going to do Open to get to my pictures, but again, like I said, I wanted to show you guys some things on a blank document here. So I'm going to say Open and Place, which is going to let me put a picture on this page. So I'm going to say Open and Place, and I'm going to grab one of my pictures here. That'll work. And here's my picture. All right, so right now you'll notice that there's these little boxes on the corners. This allows me to do things like rotate and resize this picture, but be very careful if you're resizing something, because watch what happens if I just click and drag. This is not maintaining what we call the aspect ratio. All right, the aspect ratio, basically what that means is I'm like squishing this picture, right? I'm either making it too flat or too tall. Like, even the person with the most steady hand in the world wouldn't be able to keep this in the correct proportions. So again, this is the aspect ratio. To make sure that this doesn't happen, and this goes for all of our programs, you can hold Shift as you resize it. Now, I believe the most recent version of Photoshop does this by default, and you hold Shift to squish it. But for Photopea, you gotta hold Shift to make sure it stays in the correct proportions if you want to resize it. Okay, so I made it a little bit smaller. I'll make it a little bit smaller than that. And notice again, I am just moving this around using the Move tool, and I'm gonna go ahead and place this right here. Now, I'm hitting Enter or Return, depending on if you're on Mac or PC. And that confirmed that. Now, if you see, this is kind of the thing now. I can still move this around all I want, but notice I can't resize it. It just lets me move it. So if I wanted to go back to resize this some more, I would need to turn on my transform controls, which is right here. And it just pops it back in that mode that it was just in. And again, same deal. I need to make sure I'm holding Shift if I want to resize this. So let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's put one more picture on this page just so we can talk about layers really fast here. Again, I just hit Enter to confirm that. So I'm going to go to File, Open in Place again, and let's get a different picture in here. Sure, we'll just do this one. And same deal, I'm placing my picture in here. I'm gonna hold Shift, resize it. I'm gonna try to get this to be the exact same size as the picture on top. In Photoshop, it would be doing a little thing where it actually would be able to tell what I'm doing right now, and it would automatically resize it to that other picture, but we can't really do that in Photopea. That's because it's free. Okay, it's being picky. Come on, there we go. That's about as close as I can get. All right, and we'll just shove this down here. All right, so one thing I want to point out while I'm in here, though, is I have now placed this in here. I hit Enter, and I've confirmed that I am done with moving this around. And here's the thing, though. If I want to go back and mess with this picture some, watch what happens. Even though I clicked up there, it wouldn't move it, right? So let's undo. I'm doing Control-Z a couple times there. So even though I'm clicking up here, you'd think it would let me mess with this. It keeps grabbing this one down here. That's because of my layers. So look over here on the right. Your layers are over on the right, and basically it's only going to let me interact with the layer that's currently active, and I can tell what layer is active because it's highlighted. So if I wanted to go and mess with stuff on this layer, I would need to click on it first. Now it's going to let me come over here and mess with it. If you don't like that, if you don't like having to go over here every single time, you can turn on auto select right here, and it will allow you to freely go back and forth. Like, watch the layers over here as I'm clicking, and you'll notice they change up depending on where I click. Okay, so I just wanted to just kind of introduce the concept of layers, just that exists, that basically just think of it as everything that you put into Photoshop exists on its own transparent sheet of paper, and you just kind of stack them all up on top of each other. You have the ability to like turn them off and on, making them invisible, making them so you don't interact with them. I could even squish these two layers together if I wanted to. We'll get way more into stuff we can do with layers later. I just wanted to introduce that concept. All right, so I said we were just going to mess with this picture by itself. This is more what I want you all to do with your photos. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm just going to open this picture I was already looking at. And notice it's not on a sheet of paper. I've just opened this file in its native size, so it's just the exact way that I want it to be right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go through some image adjustments. Some of you guys already have messed around with this, and that's great. If you go into Image and Adjustments, a lot of these should look familiar from what you guys have already been doing in class, even with your really basic photo editing stuff that we had on the Windows platform there. If we're looking in here, though, there's some very familiar names. We've got Shadows, Highlights. That's going to do the same thing it did before. We've got Brightness, Contrast. We have Exposure. Then there's a bunch of other ones in here that are going to do different things. I suggest you just kind of mess around with these to see what they do. I'm going to show you guys a couple things that are a little bit different here, especially Shadows, Highlights. All right, first thing to know is as soon as I click on Shadows, Highlights, it's going to automatically apply some of this filter. So watch like this dark building here. When I click on this, it automatically went ahead and assumed I wanted at least 50% shadows and highlights. Now that may or may not be true. Like when I look at this picture, I'm seeing like this kind of white halo around everything, and I don't like that. So I already know I'm going to need to come in here and mess around with stuff. So maybe I'm not going to turn that all the way down. What I need to mess with are these things here within tone and radius, especially this radius. There goes that little glow. That glow that was around those buildings now is gone. And let's see what tone. Oh yeah, tone is not going to do what I want it to do. I want to keep that down. But I do like what that shadow slider is doing, where it's bringing that building into better focus. Maybe not quite that much, somewhere right around there. Highlights is not going to really do anything with this picture right now because I have no very light parts. However, right here, I can go in here and make this color more intense if I want to, which certainly, if I'm trying to make this a dramatic sunset, I could do. All right, let me show you another quick, easy one. If you want to make a picture a black and white picture, now this is not a good contender for a black and white picture since the sunset's kind of the focus, but we can go into hue saturation right here. And if I turn that saturation down, that's all it takes to make something into a black and white picture. Alternately, I could make this super intense, like what we call hard frying an image, where I've made this super pixely and intense. Doesn't look great though. So yeah, be careful with that depending on what you want it to do. And of course, I can just go nuts with this and make, teal and pink sky if that was the sort of image I was going for. All right, last couple things here. I think I was gonna do, oh yeah, just plain old photo filter. Here's like 90% of like what things like Instagram do is just a color filter. By default, it did orange at 80% intensity, or density. Let me turn that down and back up so you can see what that's doing. I can change this color right here to, let's make it a completely different feeling. And there that photo is totally different from how it was before. If that was the sort of tone I was going for, I could do that. But for right now, I'm just gonna leave it like this. I'm gonna go and do one last couple of adjustments in here just for my own sake of getting this to look the way I want it to. So pardon me while I go in here and do some very slight corrections that probably won't look like I'm doing hardly anything at all to you guys, but it's just bothering me looking at it right now. Okay, so let's do that, and going to, we'll go and do just some brightness contrast. And there. Actually, I just wanted those shadows a little bit more intense. Okay, let's say that I'm satisfied with this and I want to save it. So here is a big warning about Photopea. Okay, Photopea is a website, right? So be careful about closing your tab or closing your window or anything like that, because all of your progress will just be gone. So like anything I'm doing right now is just within this browser, so just be very careful. Once you're done with something though, you can go to File, Export As, and for our part, and for this project, these are photos. We generally want them to be JPEGs. And these default settings will be just fine for right now. We'll hit save. Well, actually, yeah, that should be fine. Let's make sure. Yep, that should be fine. We'll save that. And it's going to probably save to my downloads folder. Now I'm on a Mac, but by default on your PC, it'll probably also save to your downloads folder. We'll say okay, and it's going to automatically open it up for me. And here's my picture. It's gigantic. It's so big it's beyond my recording screen. It's on my computer screen. All right, I'm gonna close that out. And that's a little bit of Photopea there. Once again, I'm gonna close out of this tab and just know that like this is gone. As soon as I close this, it gives you a warning at least, so that's good. But I'm going to leave that page, and now that is entirely gone, everything I just did. All right, so there's your little bit of Photopea.